Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm Jason Miller. Coming up on tonight's Evan Miller Report, breaking news out of Boston, where U.S. police have killed a man who is being tracked in a terror case. We have the late-breaking details on tonight's program. Also on tonight's program, Somalia's Al-Shabaab enters a Kenyan village in the remote northeastern of Kenya, despite a military base being nearby. Nigeria's Boko Haram leader fails to appear in their latest video, and unease continues tonight over a new Australian dual citizenship rules being changed due to terrorism laws. I'm Jason Miller. All those stories and more, plus Corey Evans' lawsuits across America, and the Entertainment Report. The Evan Miller Report for this Tuesday, June the 2nd, starts right now.
Live from Southern California, this is the Evan Miller Report. Jason Miller with news and politics, Corey Evans with business and entertainment. This is the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. Here now, Jason Miller.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Evan Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller. Corey Evan coming up a little later in the program. We have breaking news to start off tonight's program. Boston police have shot and killed a man who was under surveillance as part of a counterterrorism case. Police say he attacked officers with a large knife after being approached by a Boston police officer and an FBI agent. The shooting took place early today outside a CVS pharmacy in the residential Rosedale neighborhood of Boston. Officials say the man, identified as 26-year-old Osima Rahim, had been under 24-hour surveillance. Police and FBI officials will not comment on any ties to Islamic extremism or whether Mr. Rahim had been planning a terroristic act. Boston's Police Commissioner William B. Evans described the man as a known suspect wanted for some terrorist-related information, but he said there was no warrant for his arrest. Officers approached the man without drawing their guns, intending to interview him on the street. They did not intend to take him into custody at that time, although officials acknowledged that he was considered a threat to the public. He's someone we are watching for quite a time, and so that level of alarm brought us to question him today. I don't think anyone expected the reaction we were going to get out of him today. That's why we have the tragic turnout here. Stay with the Evan Miller Report for the latest on this developing story. We'll continue to bring this throughout the next 2 days here on the Evan Miller Report. Moving on to Somalia tonight, where Somalia's militant Islamic group Al-Shabaab has entered a remote village in northeastern Kenya, despite the fact that it is only about 9 miles away from a military base that's coming from residents. Hundreds of people have now fled Waraka, and schools have shut, they said. This is only the second time that Al-Shabaab is known to have occupied territory in Kenya. The Al-Qaeda-linked group has its headquarters in neighboring Somalia. According to the BBC's Somalia service, Mohammed says Al-Shabaab appears to be implementing its threat to take the war to Kenya. Last month it invaded Ubis town, also in the northeast, before withdrawing without a fight. Residents in Warka, speaking on condition of anonymity for fear of reprisals, told the BBC that militants have been patrolling the village. People were scared, but the gunmen have not harmed anyone, they said. The militants have also given sermons in the village, residents added. A senator for the area, Bilio Ndakiro, has told the BBC's Somalia service that he had received similar reports from that village. He urged the government to take urgent steps to curb the insurgency. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, militant Islamists have released a new video, and unusually, though, Boko Haram's leader, Abdul Sharik, fails to appear in this latest video. Instead of an unidentified young man speaks in the name of the Army of the Capultate in West Africa. Mr. Sheikh's absence from the video has fueled speculation about his fate. At least 13 people were killed on Tuesday in a bombing at a cattle market in Maiduguri City, a former Boko Haram stronghold in northeastern Nigeria. Prosecutors have dropped charges against 2 former executives of the News of the World newspaper, according to the UK Crown Office. Bob Bird was charged with perverting the course of justice and Douglas' wife with phone hacking and perjury. The Crown Office said that after an extremely thorough investigation of these allegations, no criminal proceedings would be taken. The News of the World, of course, was closed down back in July 2011. Mr. Bird was the former editor of the Scottish edition of the Sunday paper. Mr. Wright was the news editor of the Scotland edition. The pair were investigated as part of Operation Rubicon, which was launched by Scottish prosecutors and police after the newspaper closed. Big news hitting internationally tonight. We didn't think this was going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, but this story continues developing tonight. FIFA's president, Sepp Blatter, who is currently being investigated by U.S. officials and won an election to be re-elected president of FIFA, has now resigned. The news came hours after the U.S. prosecutors lodged a criminal inquiry last week with 7 FIFA officials being arrested in Switzerland, part of a group of 14 people indicted. 2 days after the arrest, Mr. Blatter, as we stated, was re-elected president of FIFA. However, today he said that it appeared a mandate he had been given does not seem to be supported by everyone in the world. Mr. Blatter says FIFA needs profound restructuring. According to the BBC's Nick Bryan, who's in New York on the story, he says that several officials told New York Times that they are hoping to gain the cooperation of some of the FIFA figures now under indictment on charges of racketeering and money laundering to try to build a case against Mr. Blatter. In announcing the U.S. prosecution last week into what she called the rampant, systematic, and deep-rooted corruption in world football, U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch did not address Mr. Blatter's position directly, but she did say that this was the beginning of the investigation, not the end. She also called for a new start at FIFA. The U.S. is primarily the U.S. investigation has plunged the World Football governing body into its most serious crisis as of yet. And stay with us for the next couple days, ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep you up to date on this as this story continues to develop tonight. All right, moving on tonight to Australia. It is a club where membership is a privilege that offers enormous rewards, but Australia is planning to strip membership from alleged terrorists who hold dual nationality. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen, a bit of a tongue twister there. New legislation proposed by Australia's coalition government, expected to be introduced within weeks, will enable the government to remove Australian citizenship from dual nationals who take up arms or support militant arms at home or overseas. More than 100 Australians are thought to be fighting with the likes of Daesh and other extremists in Iraq and Syria. And the government in Canberra estimates that up to half are dual citizens in the country of Australia. Prime Minister Tony Abbott insists tough measures are needed to protect the country from those who are trying to destroy us. Mr. Abbott has also suggested that some sole Australian nationals involved in terrorism could lose their citizenship. The controversial proposal, according to some, would allow the country's immigration minister to strip citizenship from second-generation migrants if they could be eligible for passports from another country. All right, folks, Corey Evan is here now, and he's going to give us an update tonight on that Chinese ship that went down last night and give us the very latest on that tonight. Corey? Do we have Corey Evan?
Hold on. There we are. I forgot to unmute. There we are. Yes, indeed, I've got an update from Fox News on the sunken Chinese ship. There it goes, hopefully. There we are. Wang Jing rushed to the office of the Shanghai Shizhe Tourism Agency as soon as he heard Tuesday morning about the sinking of a riverboat cruise with his brother and father-in-law and another 456 people on board. He demanded an official passenger list from the travel company that had arranged for the cruise along China's famed Yangtze River. When the agency didn't respond, he and other relatives turned on the local government, storming city district offices and cornering officials to ask that they force the cruise company to help them. Police were called in to keep the peace. Such quick outrage mirrors the responses of victims' relatives from other recent disasters, such as last year's disappearance of MH370, which carried mostly Chinese travelers. Few of the people on the capsized cruise ship have been rescued. In an authoritarian country where transparency and friendly public service are rare, everyday Chinese learn to assume officials are hiding something from them. But when the fates of mothers, husbands, and children are at stake, tolerance for the routine breaks down, said Shi Sushi, an independent Beijing-based commentator. That's a name, Shi Sushi. At any rate, Tuesday's discontent began when grieving relatives showed up to the travel agency's office only to find a notice on the door saying the owner could not be reached. They moved on to Shanghai's Xiaobei district where they tearfully demanded help from officials there. Although an aberrant boat passenger list, had been circulating on social media, Wang said it only included the names and government ID numbers of passengers who had purchased travel insurance. He said his relatives and others weren't on that list. Dozens of police arrived when relatives confronted city officials while shouting, "Are we asking too much? No, we just want information." Indeed. Similar scenes followed the stampede deaths of 36 people on Shanghai's Bund riverfront on New Year's Eve, when grieving relatives demanding to learn the fate of fallen revelers blocked city streets and were whisked by officials into hidden rooms. Holy mackerel, that's a bad situation for them there, but as they mentioned, friendly customer service and friendly public relations are very hard to find. They're very stone-faced over there, ladies and gentlemen. But while we're still on the air, we will keep an eye on this story and bring you the latest developments. Next, from the LA Times. There it goes. There it doesn't. There, now it goes. An American tourist mauled to death Monday by a lion in a South African drive-through wild animal park had lowered her car window to get better photos when the big cat pounced, according to park officials. The tourist, who was not identified, and her tour guide were violating park policy and safety signs and warnings when they drove up to a pride of lions with both the driver and passenger windows open, according to a park statement emailed to the LA Times. The statement described an unnerving scene in which witnesses said the tourist continued to snap photos of the lion, seemingly unaware that it had begun stalking her. Oh dear. A statement from the Lion Park, a popular South African tourist destination, described a series of frantic events as the driver tried to fend off the lion and get it to release the lady, and was himself injured by the animal. Park staffers rushed to the vehicle and chased the lion away. Staffers began treating the injured woman until an ambulance arrived within minutes, but it was too late. The statement added, "We would like to assure everyone that we will not euthanize the lioness. The lioness will remain under our care." The statement said that the park, whose website promises that you can get super up-close animal views, offers a unique and safe experience as long as safety precautions are followed. On Tuesday, the park was open to the public and would operate as normal, the AP reported, quoting a park spokeswoman. It was unclear whether the American tourist would be identified. The U.S. Embassy in South Africa had confirmed the death on Twitter, but said no additional information would be forthcoming out of respect for the victim's family. But let's just say, ladies and gentlemen, if ever you drive through a drive-through wild animal park, obey the signs. Don't put yourself into that very delicate situation. I'm just saying that to be kind, ladies and gentlemen. Next up from the Christian Science Monitor, Jay, had he covered the Morsi story? I didn't catch that as I was trying to reestablish connection. Awesome. There we are. A final ruling on the death sentence handed down to former Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi will be announced in 2 weeks, a Cairo court said today. The court's announcement came a day after police arrested 2 top leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood, Abdel Rahman El-Bar and Mahmoud Ghoslan, who had been hiding for the last 2 years. That, according to the AP. A Brotherhood spokesman described the arrest as a failed attempt by the brutal coup authorities to disrupt the revolutionaries across the nation. Morsi and more than 100 others were sentenced to death last month over a mass prison break in 2011 that occurred during protests against ousted President Hosni Mubarak. The crackdown on the Brotherhood since the military ouster of Morsi
has seen the slow but steady decline of what was once Egypt's most influential political group. The current government considers it a threat to national security. Human rights groups claim that up to 1,000 Brotherhood supporters have been killed and thousands of others have been detained. The new arrests could increase already intense pressures on the Brotherhood, they say, which has begun to splinter into two groups: the old guard that enforces peaceful activism, and a new younger guard that want to fight violence with violence. Political infighting is evident, with experts believing the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has an advantage here. Soon after the death sentence verdict was reported last month, the Christian Science Monitor reported some observers are concerned that Egypt has swapped back into its authoritarian days. In that context, if Morsi is executed, Muslim Brotherhood supporter would take it as a provocation. The court referred to Morsi's sentencing to the Grand Mufti, the highest religious authority in Egypt, for confirmation last month. On Tuesday, the court set June 16th as the date to decide on his death sentence after it receives the Mufti's opinion, the AP reports. And now, on to the national news. Police say they found no evidence of explosives on a U.S. Airways flight targeted with a bomb threat as it flew from San Diego to Philadelphia. Oh no, San Diego. Ooh, I'm going to keep reading this one from KansasCity.com. Philadelphia police say Tuesday.
They're going to tick us off tonight, aren't they?
Yes,
San Diego,
absolutely,
buddy. You're going to get it.
Yes, especially for me since I lived there once. But at any rate, Philadelphia police say.
You got to stay classy here in San Diego.
You betcha. Any rate, Philadelphia police say Tuesday's threat indicated multiple devices aboard U.S. Airways Flight 648. Chief Inspector Joseph Sullivan says bomb threats were made against several other flights around the world. The Airbus A320 carrying 88 passengers and 5 crew was held on a taxiway after landing safely around 6:15 a.m. at Philadelphia International. The FBI says canine units and a bomb squad searched the plane and luggage. Airline spokeswoman Victoria Lupica says passengers were transported to a terminal and reunited with their luggage. They were free to go. The incident has not affected airport operations. But it is interesting to note at the same time, Jay, that the Department of Homeland Security just completed their little TSA sweep, I believe, and found that apparently 95% of the time they weren't catching explosives as they were passing through security. So much for
Certainly
security.
Right. Looks like those little new screening machines that they're using at certain airports across the country aren't working after all.
They've been rendered useless effectively by this investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'll go ahead and move on to our next story. And speaking of canines, police in North Charleston, South Carolina, yes, North South Carolina, Jay, have arrested
canine crunchies.
Yes, and make sure you got your canine crunchies for this one, Jay. Police there have arrested a suspect in a dog abuse case that's made headlines around the nation. William Leonard Dodson was taken into custody and charged with ill treatment of animals and torture, the Charleston Post and Courier reported. He is expected to be in court today. Or at least he was. Last week, Caitlin, a 15-month-old chocolate staffy mix, was found with electrical tape around her muzzle. I can't even talk. I think the electrical tape got to my muzzle. But at any rate, tape cut off the blood flow to that part of the dog's body, leading to damage to the tissue on its muzzle and inside the mouth. Meanwhile, Charleston Animal Society officials say the dog is doing a little better and is graduated from receiving IV fluids and antibiotics to having normal food and oral medications. The dog's also getting hyperbaric treatments to improve the health of the damaged tissue and cold laser therapy to promote healing. Caitlin also had surgery on its lip, but so far no procedure has been scheduled for its tongue. Her story was picked up by local and national news sites around the country. Former South Carolina Gamecocks star Connor Shaw, who now plays for the Cleveland Browns, said he would personally donate to the reward money for tips leading to an arrest. If only I had the resources to donate to that fund as well, but I digress, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, if you happen to...
Just get me a pinball hammer and I'll slam that guy one for putting electric tape over a dog's muzzle. What a life of that guy.
I'd run it by police in North Charleston there, but never
I'm
mind.
sure
That's just my
there's
opinion.
certain things we can probably do. If he isn't going to be in a jail cell, ladies and gentlemen, me and my pinball hammer are going to be putting him out in the North Atlantic.
Yes, and make sure you've got a saw as well, just in case you need to cut anything off. But at any rate, moving on. Yes, we're a little bit cruel today. I'm not going to say what he said, but at any rate. In a water-filled ditch off Hickman Road, the twisted remnants of a trampoline lay, marking the spot Monday where a 6-year-old boy died after he was struck by a runaway truck barreling through his backyard. This out of Des Moines, Iowa from USA Today. The boy, identified late Monday as Irving Aguilar Gonzalez of Des Moines, was playing on the trampoline shortly after noon when a white pickup truck with Arizona plates driven by Guadalupe Villaguzman punched through the backyard fence of a multifamily home in the 2600 block of Hickman Road, striking the boy on the first afternoon of summer break for Des Moines Public Schools, authorities said. Villaguzman, also of Des Moines, will be charged with vehicular homicide, according to a police news release. The truck carried Aguilar Gonzalez and the trampoline until it came to a stop in the shallow ditch, several yards south of the backyard. Police called for a tow truck to try to move the pickup and get to Aguilar Gonzalez, but it was too late. A 4-year-old boy, Javier Falcon, was near the trampoline when the pickup struck it, but apparently wasn't injured. But I'm sure he's emotionally scarred. His mother, who is not the mother of Aguilar Gonzalez, drove him to Mercy Medical Center to make sure he wasn't hurt. Philip Guzman, who was driving with a suspended license, was taken into custody to be interviewed, according to police spokesman. According to a police spokesman. Neither Villaguzman nor the family of the boy killed speak English well, according to the police spokesman, but police translators were called to the scene soon after the crash. Seconds before the fatal incident, Villaguzman had hit a Toyota Highlander on Hickman Road just before 26th Street. Then his vehicle jumped a curb and careened through the fence and 2 backyards, police said. And he was going over 50, according to Dorothy Taylor of Fort Dodge, who said she saw the driver leave the road. The Highlander was driven by a woman who had 3 kids inside. The SUV lost its bumper in the collision and came to a halt just before 26th Street. None of the occupants in either vehicle were injured, according to police. It remains unclear what caused the accident between the pickup and the SUV. Medical examiner Dr. Gregory Schmunk took photos of Villaguzman's truck for the autopsy. And if the driver was driving with a suspended license, then put him away for 10 years or more. Just to make sure he doesn't drive.
I'd say put him in for the 20 and send his car to the wrecking yard and crush it.
Yeah, and make sure that you sell all his belongings to make sure you can recoup the cost of paying for the emotional damage that this guy has caused.
I don't normally advertise for an organization, but maybe it's time to send it over to Goodwill!
Yeah, well, you won't get any money for it because they're the ones getting the money because it goes to getting people jobs, but never mind.
Precisely. My point exactly.
Cheers.
And speak of which, it is time to see if we got any cheery money in tonight's business report. It's your closing bell.
No, indeed, Jay, you haven't got any happy money. The Dow is down 28 points at 18,011. The Nasdaq's down 6 points at 5076. And the S&P 500 lost a pair of points as well at 2109. So, they could be doing better, in my opinion. But never mind. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras will travel to Brussels tomorrow for a meeting with European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker, a Greek government official said today. Earlier, a senior EU official said the EU Commission, the European Central Bank, and the IMF had agreed on the terms of a cash-for-reform deal to be put on to Greece in a bid to conclude 4 months of debt negotiations. So we will keep an eye on this, and we will bring you the latest as items become available. Next up, according to the Daily Mail, manufacturing in the U.S. saw a little bit of a drop, if you will. New orders for U.S. factory goods fell in April on weak demand for transportation equipment and other goods, suggesting that manufacturing remained constrained by a stronger dollar and spending cuts in the energy sector. The outlook for manufacturing and the broader economy, however, got a lift from another report today showing automobile sales in May rising at their briskest pace in a decade. New orders for manufactured goods slipped 0.4% after increasing 2.2% in March. Factory orders have declined in 8 of the last 9 months, though. Economists had forecast orders to be unchanged in April. Excluding the volatile transportation component, orders were flat for a second straight month. Meanwhile, manufacturing, which accounts for 12% of the U.S. economy, has been hit by the dollar and lower crude oil prices, which are pressuring the profits of multinationals and oil field firms. General Motors reported a 3% increase, though, and Fiat Chrysler said sales rose 4%. Ford Motor Company said that sales fell 1% as demand for its F-Series pickup trucks slackened. Maybe, then again, it's how light the aluminum is on the new pickup trucks. But at any rate, strong auto sales could buoy May consumer spending, which was flat in April after households cut back on purchases of motor vehicles. A rebound in consumer spending, which accounts for more than two-thirds of U.S. economic activity, is being eyed after slowing down sharply in the first quarter. Consumer spending was sluggish even as households got a boost from cheaper gas and steadily rising wages. Hashtag steady. And I can tell you one company that's doing very, very well today, Dollar General. Their shares rose the most in more than 2 months after first quarter profit topped analyst expectations, according to Bloomberg. That, of course, was helped by sales of tobacco. Well, it's Dollar General, so that's to be expected. Oh, yes, and candy and health products, both of which are going to be a big-time buy for me and the Genster. More so the candy, at least. But at any rate, earnings rose to 84 cents a share in the period, the Goodlettsville, Tennessee-based company said today. Analysts predicted 81 cents on average, according to data compiled by Bloomberg, so beat it by 3. I like that. Dollar General, whose 2 biggest rivals are merging, is striving to maintain growth as the dollar store competition gets fiercer. The company saw sales increase in the first quarter from both consumables, such as snacks and smokes, and non-perishable items, including clothing and home goods. The stock climbed 3% to $74.98 in New York, the biggest one-day gain since March 12th. The shares are up 6.1% this year. So there you are, Jay. Dollar General doing pretty decently today, especially in the face of competition from Dollar General, Dollar Tree, and Family Dollar getting together. That's what I mean to say.
Sounds like an interesting merger to be sure, Corey.
Yes, and it'll show just how strong the dollar really is. Or not.
All right, that's Corey Evan. He has the business news. All right, folks, we got to take an ad break here. When we return on tonight's program, in the D.C. news, one president of the United States will be speaking on the eulogy for Vice President Biden's son. We'll tell you who that is. Take a guess, but we'll let you guess during our commercial break. The U.S. Senate has voted to limit the government's ability to collect phone data. That's a story with the USA Freedom Act coming up. And the House GOP moves to punish the State Department over delays in the Benghazi investigation. Plus, in our oddball news segment tonight, one man's red underwear leads to a burglary arrest. All that plus, Corey Evan.
Thank you, Jay. And President Obama, in our upcoming continuing battle against global socialism, says that now America is once again the most respected country on earth, he says. In lawsuits across America, a judge is allowing the New York nail salon lawsuit to go forward, so if you're a New York salon worker, this one's for you today. I'm just saying. And Iggy Azalea is revealing why she canceled her upcoming tour in entertainment. That's all coming up on the Evan Miller Report on SHR Media. Take 2 minutes, go get a cookie, and come on back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
This is Tammy Jackson, inviting you to join me on the Tammy Jackson Show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the 405radio.com. Put down that remote and tune into the show that covers politics, guns and the Second Amendment, religious liberties, sanctity of life, the military, and more. I host newsworthy guests and work hard to be a conservative radio show that's not like all the others. So save Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific for me, Tammy Jackson, on the 405media.com.
Hello, I'm Paul, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is my professor, Dr. Larry Arnn, on the separation of church and state.
America's founders believed in the separation of church and state, in that the country was not to have an official religion or an official sect. But that did not mean that government was to be hostile to religion, or even indifferent to religion, as many today argue. In fact, America's founding document, the Declaration of Independence, includes both a reference to God as the author of the laws of nature and a confident assertion that human beings are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Far from being hostile or indifferent to religion, America's founders understood the theology of the Declaration to be an essential part of the education of citizens.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
Hi, this is Rooster from Outcry Radio. Catch me here on Blog Talk Radio every Saturday night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or follow my blog. Now,
every single one of his medical bills, everything is just all taken care of.
We have phenomenal research, outstanding clinical care, and the generosity of public, which allow us to treat patients regardless of what it takes.
At St. Jude, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because the only thing a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Because of you.
Gracias a ti. Because of you.
There is St. Jude.
And welcome back to the Evan Miller Report. I'm Jason Miller. Corey Evan with Global Socialism in a couple moments' time here on the network. Welcome back. Just a programming note, ladies and gentlemen, the Evan Miller Report will have its final show on Thursday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific here on the SHR Media Network. We have our special guest with us, Orlene Kurla, our outgoing SHR Media Global Affairs correspondent, will be joining us to tell us what we should be looking for in the upcoming year and into 2016 as far as global socialism goes and how we should be fighting against the likes of Agenda 21 and the United Nations. So we look forward to that. That it's Thursday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, right here on SHR Media Network as we end our final show here on SHR. All right, folks, on to the D.C. news. President Obama will deliver a eulogy Saturday at the burial of Vice President Joe Biden's son, Beau, who died of cancer age 46 over the weekend. The White House said that the memorial events for the former military lawyer and Delaware Attorney General will begin Thursday, culminating a burial mass on Saturday. Beau Biden died last Saturday after undergoing treatment at the Walter Reed Medical Center just outside Washington. His death was another personal tragedy to befall Vice President Biden, who early in his political career lost his wife and a young daughter in a car crash. His son will lie in honor and have a public viewing on Thursday and Friday before the burial on Saturday. There will be a mass of Christian burial at the St. Anthony's of Ponda Roman Catholic Church in Wilmington, Delaware. President Obama, as we said, will deliver the eulogy in honor of Beau Biden at the Mass, this according to the White House. The USA Freedom Act was passed by the U.S. Senate today. It extends the government's ability to collect large amounts of data, but with restrictions. The bill, which replaces the Patriot Act, has been backed by President Obama as a necessary tool to fight terrorism. Mr. Obama said today that he will sign that bill into law. The bill undoes a national security policy that has been in place shortly after the attacks of 9/11 in 2001. The new law replaces the NSA program in which the spy agency collected personal data en masse. The revelation of this program by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden triggered a global public backlash. Instead of receiving bulk quantities of data from telephone and internet companies, the NSA will now be forced to request the information through a court order. The data will also be stored on telephone and internet company servers rather than government servers. The request must be specific to an individual entity, such as a person, account, or electronic device. Then a 6-month transition will be in place as the policy shifts so that the data storage remains with private companies rather than the government servers. The White House has signaled its intent today to veto legislation that would stymie President Obama's push to open travel to Cuba, the latest political clash over his landmark foreign policy goal in Cuba. The transportation bill includes measures designed to scupper Obama's broader effort to thaw Cuban ties that were set in deep freeze during the Cold War. His senior advisors would recommend that he veto the bill, said the White House in a statement today. Congress is considering a bill that would restrict flights and cruise ships from going to Cuba and traveling that the Obama administration has encouraged. In the White House's view, it would also place unnecessary restrictions on options for education, religious, or other permitted travel to the communist island. Republicans who have been keen to connect with Cuban American voters have opposed Obama's plan to improve ties, citing persistent political persecution in Cuba. The field of prospective Republican presidential candidates include Marco Rubio, Jeb the Common Core Bush, both of which have a political base based in Florida, which is close to a Cuban American community. Following through on a threat, House Republicans today proposed cutting the State Department's budget to protest its slow response in producing documents related to the investigation of the terror attacks in Benghazi, Libya. The House Appropriations Committee said a budget plan for the State Department withholds nearly $700 million, or 15% of the agency's operational funds, until requirements related to proper management of Freedom of Information Act and electronic communications are met. The chairman of the Benghazi panel, Congressman Trey Gowdy of South Carolina, that's South, not North Carolina, and other Republicans have complained that the State Department has delayed providing emails and other documents involving former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton and her top staffers. Over to the state of Illinois now, where Senate Democrats over there said today that they will push a package of bills to counter Republican Governor Bruce Rayner's reform agenda as the state's key legislative session goes into overtime. The legislation would boost the state minimum wage, give tax credits for college costs, guarantee up to 7 paid sick days for full and part-time workers, and cover 2 years of tuition and fees for the eligible community college students, and end business tax breaks to save Illinois' $334 million. The one Democrat Senator Don Harmon said in a statement, "Our governor keeps saying that we need to reinvigorate Illinois' economy and make it a more attractive place to live. We agree with his goal, but we don't agree on how to best achieve it. The proposal outlines some of the items we believe will truly strengthen our economy and make Illinois a better place to live and work." End of quote. The democratically controlled legislature reached its scheduled spring session and on Sunday without a budget deal for the fiscal year that begins on July the 1st. Lawmakers were then called back into what could be called an extended overtime session, with the House meeting on Thursday and the Senate on June the 9th. All right, folks, it's time to send it over to Corey Evan tonight. And yes, tonight's global socialism story of the night. And no, I do not have that theme.
Don't worry about it. I've got something else queued up. At any rate, speaking with young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative fellows at the White House, President Obama said that under his leadership, the United States, according to IJ Review, has become the most respected country in the world. Lying! 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 The Daily Caller details President Obama's remarks in which he emphasizes pending nuclear deal with Iran as one of the deciding factors. Quote, people don't remember, but when I came into office, the United States in world opinion ranked below China and just barely above Russia. And today, once again, the United States is the most respected country on earth. And part of that, I think, is because of the work we did to re-engage the world and say that we want to work with you as partners with mutual interests and mutual respect. It was on that basis where we were able to end 2 wars while still focusing on the very real threat of terrorism and try to work with our partners in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's the reason why we are moving in the direction of normalized relations with Cuba. The nuclear deal that we are trying to negotiate with Iran. The president didn't cite specific research to support his claim. According to a 2014 survey conducted by the Reputation Institute and covered by Forbes, the top nod goes to Switzerland, with the U.S. falling in 22nd place. Once again, lying, lying, lying. Am I right?
You're certainly right. Corey Evan with the global socialism story of the night. Thank you very much. And now, Corey, it's time for a little segment we call here on the program. Since it was so popular last night, we're going to bring it back for another night. It's time for Adbonush.
Yes!
All right. Sorry, baby. Your picture isn't going to be on the front of any beer bottles in New Hampshire. What in hell am I talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Democratic Governor Maggie Hassan on Tuesday vetoed a measure that would have allowed some images of minors to grace alcoholic beverages labels as long as they didn't encourage young people to drink. This coming into infant babies being on beer bottles. Republican State Representative Keith Murphy, who runs a popular tavern, sponsored the bill because he wanted to be able to buy breakfast stout crafted by Founders Brewery Company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The beer's label depicts a chubby Norman Rockwell Esquire baby scooping oatmeal into his mouth. Hassan said allowing the images could undermine the state's efforts to fight underage drinking. Substance misuse, including alcohol misuse, continues to be one of the major public health issues and safety challenges facing us as a state, Hassan said in her veto measure. Moreover, statistics suggest that New Hampshire has among the highest rates of underage drinking in the country. And Corey, not often that I agree with the Democrat on this one, but GLP, that bill is bad news.
Oh, for goodness sake. Alcoholic beverages featuring kids' images on it. What won't they think of next?
I don't know. Well, it's now time to take a little visit to the city of marijuana. Well, in regards to North Pole, won't be blocking any pot sales. No, it's not mistletoe. So North Pole residents can put marijuana on their Christmas list next year. The city council on the North Pole rejected a measure Monday that would have banned marijuana dispensaries. Marijuana became legal in Alaska back in February, and sales begin next year. The Fairbanks Daily News is reporting that even Santa Claus, yes, that's his real name, testified in favor of selling pot in this Christmas-themed town, where light poles resemble candy canes. Claus said, quote, he is a medical marijuana patient, and he'd like to buy pot in the North Pole instead of making the short drive down to Fairbanks. Some worried how others might perceive the North Pole, but one thing's for sure, if your kids do believe in Santa Claus, you better watch out. You better not cry, because Santa Claus is going to come down that chimney very high.
I think you're about right on that, Jake.
And that was personally written by yours truly. I'm not usually the comedian, but hey, what's wrong with Christmas carols in June? They start the Christmas shopping in July online. What can I say?
You gotta take up more of that, Jay. Now that we're going off the air, you'll have at least that much time.
But I digress.
I think, Corey, I think I'm going to start taking some comedy classes. We'll
Yes.
take your advice on that. All right.
Yeah,
one
and
final story
next time you're at a comedy club, let me know so I can join you.
All right, sounds like a plan. One final story before we wrap up the oddball news tonight. The blue sneakers were a subject of the crime, but police say it was a man's red underwear that led to his arrest in Long Island, New York. Police say 18-year-old Taken Ross stole $200 in electronics and Air Jordan sneakers from an apartment Monday and stopped in the backyard to try on the new kicks. That's when a neighbor snapped a photo of the suspect with those red boxers visible above his jeans. Hampstead Village officer Ronald Harris says he was returning after a canvass of the neighborhood when he noticed someone taking the garbage out. He saw someone bending over with bright red underwear. Turns out it was an exact match. He said, quote, I just happened to sit in a car for a moment, and in my rearview mirror about 500 yards away, I see a guy bending over, putting garbage bags down, and what do I see? Lo and behold, I see red underwear standing out. The officer acknowledged that young men in Hampstead are often seen not wearing belts with pants hanging low. If he would have gone home and put a belt on, I probably wouldn't have noticed him. Harris was then arraigned on a burglary charge today in district court and was conditionally released to probation. He was represented by a lawyer from Legal Aid, which does not comment on pending cases. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with Santa Claus coming to your kid's house, high on marijuana, look out. We got an elf going into groceries, going into electronic stores, stealing $200 of merchandise.
Pants on the ground. Looking like a fool with your pants on the ground.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the way that this goes. That man wants to do redistribution of wealth, and he might just do it for your kids or his own. And that concludes tonight's Oddball News.
Yes.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for tonight's Lawsuits Across America.
And now it's time for Lawsuits Across America. The cases are real. All rise for the Honorable Corey Evans.
Yeah. Sit, people. I've got two good ones to bring to you. A lawsuit against a New York nail salon brought by manicurists alleging that shop's owners routinely failed to pay them the minimum wage and overtime can move forward, a federal judge said to Reuters today.
New York City? Minimum what?
New York City, Jay. The complaint filed in U.S. District Court in Manhattan in April as a proposed class action came a month before a series of investigative articles by the New York Times revealed rampant wage theft and hazardous working conditions in New York's nail salons. U.S. District Judge J. Paul...
Work conditions? What happened? Too many broken nails?
Yes, among other things. District Judge J. Paul Oetken denied Gypsophila Nail and Spa, I think that's how you pronounce it, bid to throw out the lawsuit, which claims the Manhattan salon paid employees wages as low as $6.67 an hour for work weeks that often stretch past 60 hours. Employees in New York State are... Yes, indeed. Well, they're supposed to be getting $8.75 an hour and a 40-hour work week. And they also claim owners denied work breaks and illegally retained part of their tips. And why does that remind me of Amy's Baking Company? Never mind. Moving on. And the second one from AL.com. And hurry up, AL.com. I only got a few moments here. Gotta deal with Iggy Azalea in just a few moments. There we go. Sarah Nissan, where 8 former managers and salesmen have pled guilty to criminal charges in a scheme to falsify car loan documents, now faces a civil suit from a Jefferson County couple who says the dealership was involved in a criminal enterprise during the purchase of their car. Brought under the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO, the suit filed in federal court Monday also seeks to be designated a class action case to represent all customers who may have been injured in a deal with Sarah Nissan. The suit seeks an unspecified amount of compensatory and punitive damage. The dealer issued a statement Tuesday afternoon saying that it has never tolerated wrongdoing, has cooperated with authorities, and will aggressively defend itself against what it calls false and unsupported allegations in the lawsuit. Which is why, ladies and gentlemen, I won't be buying a Nissan anytime soon. In fact, my parents regretted buying their Nissan, but maybe their case is just a unique one. I don't know.
Well,
I'm just happier with my little...
a Nissan there, Corey? Is because
What?
you're afraid those New York salon people are going to stick all those broken fingernails in the windshield.
Exactly. Then I'm happy with my little Hyundai. But never mind. It's case dismissed for today's lawsuits across America.
There you
and
go.
Now moving on to entertainment, and yes, we have to deal with Iggy Azalea.
Once again.
There we are. Since topping the charts last year with hit after hit, scoring multiple Grammy nominations, and making history by joining the Beatles as only artists to have sung simultaneously at numbers 1 and 2 with their first 2 Hot 100 hits, Iggy Azalea has continued to dominate the music world. And Fancy and Problem are songs that are on repeat, and now people are getting addicted to Pretty Girls, her single with Britney Spears. And on top of that, now she's had to cancel her tour, apparently. And it just seems like there's so many reasons for that, including...
What happened, Cole? Did she break a nail?
No, I believe that her boyfriend proposed to her. Sorry, I'm just having...
Congratulations to the lovely couple!
Yeah, and sorry about this, I'm just having a brief little amount of trouble with this thing. Yeah, when the satellite fries, yeah, it's Iggy Azalea and Nick Young. Yes, those two. Congratulations, you love boys. Yeah, it took me a while to find the name because, well, we're having a little bit of problems with our LA satellite. But we're working on those, and we'll get them back up and fully functional by tomorrow's program.
Alrighty.
And from E!
Oh, you do have another entertainment story. My apologies, sir.
Yeah, I just had a brief little spat of trouble with that previous one. But at any rate, according to E! Online, the Duggars are about to break their silence almost 3 weeks after Josh Duggar...
Do? Really?
On their official website, they will be sitting down with Megyn Kelly. Yes, that's right, of the Kelly Files. While what will be discussed remains top secret, Kelly admitted to viewers Monday night on her show that she's more than ready to ask some tough questions. Well, maybe nothing is a bit harsh. She also mentioned that she doesn't plan on getting into the specifics about what was done because her understanding is the victims don't want to discuss that either. And I don't blame them. Ever since the allegations surfaced, multiple advertisers, including General Mills, Payless Shoes, and Choice of Hotels, have declared that they will remove their ads from future Duggars-related programming. The popular reality show has already been pulled by TLC and Hulu with no official word or plans to bring the series back. Kelly's discussions will air Wednesday night on The Kelly File at 9 p.m. That's a special one-hour specialty reportedly filmed at the couple's home in Springdale, Arkansas. And it'll also... the special one-hour especially reportedly filmed at the couple's home, that will air on Friday at 9 on Fox. So... oh, man. I hope one of the questions is, how did the police report get leaked to the media? That should be one of their top things.
Why did it take so long for this to come out? My goodness. Yeah, that Duggars would have never ended up on television if this was on public record. Indeed. All right, that's Corey Evan, ladies and gentlemen. He has your entertainment news. Thank you very much for that, Corey. And that does it for us tonight here on the Evan Miller Report. Coming up next is the National Weather Forecast with Chris Fox in your neighborhood. But for all of us here at the Evan Miller Report, wish you a great night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
The United States, so we can see some very angry-looking clouds working across Nebraska into North and South Dakota, and they'll continue to push eastwards. Now, as we head through the night and into Wednesday, Some of those storms will work their way into Wisconsin, where we could be looking at some hail, some damaging wind gusts, and perhaps even an odd tornado. Later in the day across parts of the plains, there is also a risk of seeing some severe thunderstorms break out. Eastern side of the US, well, still pretty cool for the time of year, really, in New York, but at least most of the rain will have eased out of the way, so we will be looking at a brighter picture. And some slightly brighter weather, too, for the Pacific Northwest, although still with a few showers, so not entirely dry. And temperatures in Vancouver, well, around 61 Fahrenheit. Looking southwards, we've got the sunshine in California, but temperatures just coming off the boil for Nevada. Las Vegas, we're looking at highs into the upper 90s. Here's the forecast then across the eastern side of the US. Still rather cloudy and coolish in New York, 64 Fahrenheit here. Still got the risk of some thundery downpours working into the Carolinas and Florida as well, with the risk of some pretty lively thundery downpours here. Here's the forecast for the next few days. Showers clear away from Atlanta, so temperatures rising. 82 Fahrenheit here by Friday underneath the blue sunny skies. Looking at the picture for the Pacific Northwest, well, also the weather becoming drier and much warmer. Portland.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.